right. Hello, NextOppSocial family. Welcome to another live chat. I'm Richelle Wilson. I'm joined as always by Juwan Buford, and today we are very excited to welcome Mr. Javon Smith. He's a successful real estate agent. Welcome. Before we jump into it, if you're watching here and you want to make sure you're notified every time we go live, which is almost always Wednesday at 10 a.m., please make sure you hit that subscribe button below. All right, we got the housework out of the way. Donovan, tell us more about your background, yourself, and because we're all about entrepreneurship, what caused you to fall in love with being an entrepreneur?
I think I started early on. I actually was under the mentorship of Juwan Buford when I first started. Like my first entrepreneurial stint, so to speak, was with Legal Shield. It was a multi-level networking opportunity that I kind of hopped on with my mom when I was probably about 18 years old. So that was probably like the first start. I was in college, and then from there, I just kind of started doing my own thing. Like I started tutoring kids when I was at Michigan State in accounting. That was like my first entrepreneurial business, really. And then once I graduated school, I got into corporate America. I got into a Fortune 500 company. I started working for 3M as a supply chain analyst. And I kind of knew going into it that I didn't really want to stay there or stay within corporate America. But while I was there, I learned a lot. You know what I mean? I got a chance to make some money to kind of set me up for my path. But about 2 years into working for 3M as a supply chain analyst, I'm not gonna say they forced me out, but they kind of gave me a hard time, and I just decided to leave. Not really knowing what to do, but I had a Groupon for a real estate course that I wanted to take. So I just kind of went down that path of becoming a real estate agent, not knowingly that I really wanted to be a real estate agent, but kind of just knowing that I wanted to be a real estate investor. I just got my license, and then I ended up enjoying what I did on a day-to-day basis enough to kind of pursue this as a career.
So, J. Donovan, working with you early on, how do you think those earlier entrepreneurial endeavors kind of shaped your perspective, right? Because when I hear someone talk about corporate America and not necessarily being forced out, but people making it convenient, I find that's something that entrepreneurs articulate a lot, right?
Right.
Usually it's not you being forced out at all. It's usually you looking at the circumstances, and unlike most individuals, you start doing the math and you say, you know what? I can do better on my own. I can do better independently as opposed to being underneath the whip of a C student, right? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So for me personally, early on, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was a really influential book for me that kind of just taught me the difference between not only working for other people and being an employee, but the difference between working for yourself and having your investments or your business work for you, as opposed to you even working for yourself. So I think that early on, I saw my father. He had his own business, and he was kind of a slave to his own business in the sense that he was working for himself. So even though he was an entrepreneur, he kind of just created a job for himself. So that was kind of influential to me early on. I always knew that I didn't want to work for myself or anybody else too long. You know what I mean? I knew that there was smarter ways to make money. But early on, I just knew that, that I just didn't fit in with the culture. So I didn't fit in with the fact that I had to go to work 8 hours every day. And I probably spent 2 to 3 hours of it actually working. You know what I mean? But I was required to be there. So that just didn't make sense to me. And then also the salary arrangement, I could work harder. I could work better. I could be, I could save the company $1 million and they're not going to give me much more money. You know what I mean? Maybe they give me a bonus maybe they give me a slap on the back, but I just didn't understand why I was working so hard to not be compensated fairly. Or, well, not even fairly. I guess it was probably more than fair, but I didn't have the opportunity to work harder and make more money. And I knew that I just needed to make more money every year. Like, I wanted to make more money every year. I didn't want to be stuck at that salary cap. So I just wanted to do something that, even if it was me working for myself, or even if it was me working for somebody else, I wanted to be in a field where my hard work is going to equate to more money, even if it didn't equate really, immediately.
Fantastic. I love it. So you chose real estate, man. And look, I don't need to tell you that entrepreneurship can be difficult enough, but then you chose a real estate industry where there's no shortage of competition. And then, of course, you have the pandemic taking place. And, you know, part of the reason why I was so excited to have this conversation with you is I had been watching you and I noticed that you didn't miss a beat. You know, it was almost like the pandemic didn't even show up in your business. You were just still out there building your business. And a lot of individuals have been wiped out. A lot of competitors, regardless of what industry you're in, particularly in the real estate industry, stuck their head in the sand and called it a day. And you kept on grinding. You kept on working. Talk to me a little bit. Talk to our audience a little bit. I mean, what informed your thoughts? What kept you motivated? What was your thinking when you had the pandemic and quarantine? Where were you drawing confidence from at that time? What was going on?
Well, I mean, to be honest, you know, social media can make it seem like, you know, nobody was worried or scared or didn't panic, because I did at first. I ain't gonna lie. Like, you know, I think that even when I was talking to other agents and trying to do the deals that I was trying to do, it was more so we didn't know what was going to happen next. So we didn't know where to, like, you know, and I think that was for everybody. You know, when the pandemic first hit, it was just like nobody knew what to do next, what was coming next, what was going on next. And, you know, they kind of limited us because they shut down showings. So, you know, for real estate agents, we get paid by showing houses, and for listing houses that, you know, and allowing other people to see the house so that they can buy them. And they completely shut that down for about a month. So in that time frame, you kind of had to do what you had to do to get deals done. But I still had people that were looking to buy, and I still had some deals that were closing. I still had, you know, I think I had an investor that bought a duplex during the pandemic. And, you know, the investors were all calling my phone. Some of them were scared. Some of them were looking for opportunities though. So, you know, I sold a duplex on Greenfield to an investor. And then I also sold a house in West Bloomfield to an out-of-state client who, at the end of the day, so when the pandemic first started, I had a $9,000 deal on the contract. And, you know, that was one of my biggest deals to date. So I'm like, hey, I'm about to, you know, as far as retail real estate. So, you know, I'm thinking I'm pretty happy about that. Then the pandemic hit and they're like, oh no, we think it's going to be a recession, and they back out the deal. So immediately I lose a $9,000 deal due to the recession. And due to the pandemic. And then, you know, a lot of other people were acting like they were scared as well. So I was worried for sure. But she ended up coming around because they had to move to Michigan. You know what I mean? They needed an address in Michigan to register for insurance, and her husband was starting a job here soon. So, you know, out of the necessities, you know, I think that I kind of moved through the pandemic. I still sold 2 houses throughout the time when we were shut down. And then when they opened it back up, it was like business was booming. Like it was low inventory. It was more competitive of a market in the sense of people trying to find homes. It's harder to get homes because it's so low inventory right now. So people are putting in offers over ags. You know, we're trying to do whatever we can to get our clients into these homes because it's just no inventory and it's very high demand. So it kind of had the opposite effect of what we thought was going to happen, which was the real estate market was going to slow down due to the pandemic. But actually, it kind of sped up and got even hotter. So it kind of left an opportunity to, if you just kind of kept on pushing, on the other side of it was a lot of opportunity. I probably closed, since we opened back up, I've closed 5 more deals since then. So like it was, I mean, as best of opportunity to get in now, especially if you're on the list side, because homes is just, it's no inventory. So you list a home and it's sold pretty quickly.
So I have to ask, I mean, still, right? Because you know what I'm talking about. A lot of people did the exact opposite of what you did.
Right. Yeah.
What informed your thinking? What kept you in the game? A lot of individuals jumped ship, tried several other different endeavors. I mean, I'm paying attention and watching. You have folks who jumped in entire industries altogether, or just went back to corporate America, and you did the exact opposite, man. What informed your thinking? What was going on? What influenced you to stay in it?
I guess it wasn't when you know, I don't think of it as, I don't really have the option to quit in my mind. You know what I mean?
There it is.
So that never really, you know, I didn't even think to touch on it because that never be able to do real estate. I was thinking, how? I just thought that things was going to change, or it's going to be something that I had to do like different, but like I never was thinking I was going to stop. You know, I did stop. I did slow down prospecting a little bit. I didn't feel comfortable cold calling people so much during the pandemic. But overall, you know, when I got into real estate, I put all my eggs in one basket and kind of jumped off the deep end. So I had so much money, so much time invested into this career that it wasn't really an option for me to pretty much reach rock bottom for a career, which was, you know, pretty safe. I had a consistent amount of money to, you know, I've been out of corporate America for, I want to say almost 3 years now. I think it's 3 years now. So I've been to the point where I was literally rock bottom, and that was probably like 5 months ago, 6 months ago. Like I had fees that were due. I think the fees were like $160, and I had a car that wasn't working in my garage, and I remember selling it for like $300, and I took $160 and I paid for my real estate fees. And it's like, even back then, that was probably a lower point than the pandemic, because I literally had nothing. You know what I mean? Like I had literally nothing. So like when you come from nothing, it's like, well, you can only go up from here. You know what I mean? It's not like you have anything. I kind of was in a position of the bottom when it started, and I didn't really see a way to go up from there. I wasn't looking to get a job. You know what I mean? I had to kind of make this work. So it ended up working out for me in the sense that I closed a lot more immediately after that time period.
All right. So I know it kind of faded in and out a little bit. And so I'm just going to kind of recap some of what you shared, right?
Oh, I didn't know.
And what I'm hearing, yeah, it's okay. And man, it's technology. Deal with it. But what I'm hearing from you, just in case our audience kind of missed out on some of that, is I'm hearing clearly that the bottom line is quitting wasn't an option. It was almost one of those things where you jumped off the mountain. You said, I'm going to grow wings on the way down. I'm going to smash, right?
Right.
And the fact that you had already hit rock bottom before and was able to climb out of a bad situation gave you confidence to say, okay, this is nothing. You know, if I can hit rock bottom, recover, be in a situation where I'm down to my last buck and I can bring value to the marketplace and level up, this pandemic, not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think it wasn't a big deal. I'm not going to say that I just faced it fearlessly, but
yeah.
Quitting never really went through my mental. It wasn't really something that I was like, well, maybe, all right. Because it had already been through my mind so many times before. Like, and I still pushed through, and I didn't get a job. I put in applications before. It's been time I put in applications, but I didn't go on no interviews. You know what I mean? I didn't make it to the interview. So it's definitely in times when I felt like I wanted to quit in the past, and I kind of considered it or felt like maybe that was the route. But deep down, I always knew that, like, I just invested too much into this. You know, I pretty much invested everything. I had a 401k that I cashed in. I had a stock plan that I cashed in just to keep me going. You know what I mean? I had credit cards that I lived off of just to keep me out of corporate America, even if the money wasn't coming in from real estate, so to speak. You know what I mean? So
I like it.
I knew that it was I knew it had to. It just kind of had to. You know, it just had to work. Like eventually, like I didn't know when it was gonna work, but I knew it had to work. But luckily, it kind of started working during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Or after.
So, real estate industry is a lot like the investment advising and the financial services industry. It's an old school industry, right? Most people up until recently, you're taught to do what? Belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball, shake people's hands, kiss the babies, you know, all that fun stuff. That's how most people are conditioned to do business in that industry.
Right.
Right. The ideal that if you're not literally physically showing a house, somehow you can't get business done. Right. I think you kind of know where I'm going with this. How did you pivot? What things did you do differently that given the shift and the changing nature of interactions and how business is going to be done now and in the future? What are some of the shifts and changes you made in terms of your modus operandi and engaging people and still getting out here and building your business?
Actually, I think that my business model, aside from the fact that I did networking meetings every week, if not multiple networking meetings every week, that definitely changed because I no longer could access those crowds anymore and get those opportunities to kind of expose myself to hundreds of people at one time, or 20s of people at one time. But my main form of marketing was social media. So that was really I didn't have to shift too much because, I was always doing virtual open houses. I was already doing, just posting a lot on social media about my day-to-day. Just basically, my mentor, I read a book called Show Your Work, and he gave me the book, and he's just basically telling me about it. And it just basically speaks on just everything you do, you just kind of build a resume for yourself. And that's what I felt like I was doing on social media, was building a resume for myself, so that when I did encounter new clients, or if I encountered prospective clients, I had like a little resume that I could show them. Even on like listing appointments or buyer appointments, I could show them like, hey, look at all these homes that I've either sold, shown open. Here's my virtual tours. And then also just providing a virtual listing for my clients, just having a photographer come out and have a virtual tour that's added to the listing. Just those little things that you can kind of make it, adapt to the times of contactless and virtual. Kind of got to do it.
I love it. I love it. Rochelle, I'm going to turn things over to you for 1 second. You already know what I have going on in the background. I need to check on that immediately.
I got to check on something too. 1 second.
Okay.
I gotta check on something too. 1 second.
All right.
Well, you're the interview though, Jay.
I know. It's just 1 second. 1 second.
Well,
I'm putting it in. I'm good.
This is entrepreneurship life, right?
Yep. I'm coming
got Jay
right
back. Got Jay literally interviewing and working at the same time. And now that I'm being forced to work at home, I have to deal with this kid. Hold on 1 second.
All right. Well, middle of our process here, I'll just do another housekeeping detail. We do have a website now, also called NextOppSocial.com. So just like our page here, you can go there. You can also sign up to our email list. So on top of subscribing to the channel, by subscribing to our email list, any interviews that we have, such as this one, every Wednesday, the following day on Thursday afternoons, you'll get an email right to your inbox that's going to recap what we went over, as well as the video for you to watch it on your own time, because we know that Wednesday at 10 doesn't always work. But we also have on that website a little bit more about what we're doing, why we're doing it. All of our other episodes are also there, so you can watch them at any time. And we also have a form on our About page that if you are a Detroiter, Metro Detroiter, you're in the area and you're really enjoying what we're doing here, and you are a small business owner, you're an entrepreneur, that you're a part of this, please feel free to fill out a contact form to let us know. We'd love to talk to you. and learn more about it. All right, I'm gonna switch over for you. So on top of kind of what Joanne was saying as well, what you mentioned that you were able still with social media because you already had established that digital presence, that you didn't have to pivot or shift too much because you had already established these good habits and whatnot. What are some other ways that you kept yourself motivated, positive, and focused especially during the thick of the pandemic of it all?
Honestly, for me, I think that like kind of my mentor was pushing me to do more work in that time. And I didn't do a lot of work, so to speak. Like I kind of did a little bit more relaxing and relaxation, because up until that point, I didn't really have a time to take a break and kind of refocus and realign myself. And I think that the pandemic, I mean, unfortunately, we were forced to sit at home all day. So like, I kind of had a little bit more of a, time to relax and realign and kind of figure out the plan. Wake up in the morning, get out here, get back a little bit and slow down. Just to be honest, all of the work, and I was talking to Joanne about it before this, all of the work that I put in for weeks and weeks and weeks that I felt like didn't give me any immediate business. I didn't like turn around and make money tomorrow off of that work, but I did 24 open houses the second half of the year last year, and I think everybody saw that. And in turn, when it was time for them to buy, I didn't even have to reach out. They were reaching out to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I definitely think there's a lot of power as well in slowing down, especially when it's necessary, and
right.
refocusing. So yeah, it's a lot of times we're go, but there's so much value in just being able to stop for a second and reflect on what needs
right.
to happen. Awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Trying to coordinate closings and get everything done in the background still.
So I'm hearing mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing books and information that you're consuming. I'm hearing a lot of different things that I think entrepreneurs oftentimes take for granted, right? There's this misconception that if I'm going to do it right, I do it myself, right?
Right.
And that somehow your business and your empire is going to be done by just the sweat of your brow, your own intellect and talent. Somehow you got the magic being, divinity, something inside of you, or you don't need anyone. And I'm listening to you and I'm hearing the exact opposite, right? When you think about the people, the information you've consumed, how important is it to have a team, man, at the end of the day? I guess is what I'm asking you. How important, for those who are listening, how important is it to have a team and to be consuming the right information and be around the right individuals? What would you say to that person that says, look, I'm just going to strike out on my own and do it myself?
I think that you can do it yourself. Anybody can do it themselves. You can definitely go out there and, trial and error. Don't read any books. Trial and error your way to success. I don't think that that's impossible. I just think that it's going to make it harder on yourself. And if you do read, learn, and reach out to people that have already achieved the success that you want to achieve, then it allows for you to accelerate the process. To the point where I feel like in the last, year that I worked with my mentor, I learned more in that time period than I did in the previous 2 years doing it on my own. So I think that it just extremely, completely accelerated the process for me and allowed me to learn a lot more skills and tactics and just overall life skills that help me in my business every day. So I also am the person that will read and never act. So you got to find that balance too. So like, don't over analyze the situation. You got to take some type of action. And even though you read and learned from the best, when you go out there, you're still gonna not perform at the best. It's just like you can read 100 books on skateboarding, you can have a skateboarding mentor, but if you never go out there and practice or try, you're not gonna know how to skateboard. So it's kind of a balance between those two dynamics, in my opinion.
I love it. What are some things about the industry that you work in right now that people have misconceptions about, where they may not understand what's really required, what it takes, or quite frankly, what's necessary to scale and really grow and be successful? What are some of the misconceptions you like to clear up in terms of the nature of the work that you do and how you serve and help people?
I'm sorry, I think you broke up a little bit. I didn't hear all of the question.
What are some of the misconceptions you think people have about the real estate industry? Misconceptions you think people have about entrepreneurship, period, right? That you feel need to be cleared up in terms of what's required to be successful, bring value to the marketplace, and build a thriving business?
I think that one of the biggest misconceptions, and I think that I had the same misconception, was that you just automatically get a lot of time freedom. And that's what, I mean, technically, yes. Like when I first started, and like when I left my job, I didn't know what to do with my time. I'm like, all right, I don't have a job anymore. Like, what do I do? You know what I mean? So I'm like in the library, just like reading. Of course, I'm like over analytical, so I'm reading and stuff like that. But I think that now that I'm in the thick of it, I realized that, you know, I was working and I'm like, man, I'm always trading my weekends, you know, I'm living for the weekend, basically. You know what I mean? I'm just living for the weekend. I'm a zombie throughout the day at work. I get off work, I eat, I go to sleep. Now I'm living for the weekend. But now it's like every day, I mean, I just gave my weekend up. Like, I mean, like, I don't really have a weekend no more. I know houses on the weekends. Oh, I'm living for the weekend. But, you know, I like what I do every day, so I don't feel like I'm working every day, but I work every day, though. Like, even though I'm sitting on my porch right now, I'm working, you know what I mean? So I have the luxury to do it how I want to or where I want to most times. And that's the joy and the beauty of it. But I work every day. And, you know, my client called me at 8 o'clock last night. She's like, are you working? I'm like, no, I mean, not necessarily, but I'm still going to answer my phone. You know what I mean? So I kind of traded a 9 to 5 for a 9 to forever. Just work all the time now. So I'm trying to learn though. I'm trying to learn to outsource more though now, so that I can take more breaks and I can get some of the work that I don't like to do off of my plate. So that's the next transition.
That kind of leads into another question here with within the real estate industry and what you're doing, and you're talking about outsourcing things that aren't what you love to do, or maybe you know that there's more efficient ways that it could be done. What are some of what is challenging, what is difficult, or what would you change about the real estate industry or what you're doing right now?
Well, one thing I'm trying to change right now, like I said, is trying to outsource a little bit more. So I'm looking to hire a transaction coordinator. At my last team, I had one, and I learned that from my mentor a lot. Is you know, sometimes you gotta let go of some of the control in order to get more done. So I'm just trying to build a system that allows for me to have more time freedom. That's really the biggest thing that I'm focusing on right now, is just kind of allowing myself to get another point of contact that'll allow me to scale my business up, because I can only work with so many people. I can only have so many hours in the time. I mean, I only have so many hours of time in a day that I can get work done. So if I can add on somebody else who's either showing houses for me or doing all of the paperwork for me or doing the email transactions for me, that'll free up the time for me to get more clientele and a better service the clientele that I have. So that's my main goal on as far as like that's what I don't like to do in the business. What I like to do in the business is interact with people and help people out and teach people. And, you know, that's a big part of what I do. But I spend a lot of time just writing up offers, inputting listens, doing paperwork, email communications. And, you know, I don't have to spend that time there. It's not really what I enjoy to do it's not what I enjoy doing about the job. So.
I love it. I love it. So what advice would you offer to individuals who've made the decision to do entrepreneurship right now, right? Maybe they're in one of those 50 million plus people who file for unemployment, who finally concluded, if you still believe in job security, you might as well believe in the tooth fairy, right? Or maybe those individuals who, quite frankly, been thinking about it for quite some time, and they finally drawn a line in the sand and said, you know what? This is the day. I'm going to go ahead and launch a business. Or quite frankly, you have individuals who are very much interested in jumping into real estate more specifically. You know, if you're going to offer them some advice in terms of what they should do right out the gate, what are maybe 2 or 3 nuggets you'd share with them?
Well, I can speak about kind of what I've done, what I did right out the gate. That kind of, I think a big thing is drawing that line in the sand. Finding a way to draw the line in the sand. So like, whether it's maybe you gotta quit your job, or whether you gotta buy a program or pay for some mentorship, if you do that, that's like for example, for me, I first thing I did was pretty much spent a lot of money on a credit card for a trip to go to a seminar to learn about real estate investing. I probably spent, I don't know, upwards of $8,000 total, maybe $10,000 total, including the trip. And that was money that I didn't really have to spend on that. I had just quit my job, but me investing that was like, all right, I'm going to make this work now. No matter what, I'm going to make this work, because I spent too much money. I won't allow myself to be like, all right, I spent all this money and it didn't work out. So that was kind of like the line in the sand for me, because I spent a lot of money on this thing, and a year later I'm looking up like, man, it's still not working. You know what I mean? Like, but I wasn't gonna quit because I had already drew a line in the sand. So I think that some people think that you can maybe dip your toe into stuff. It hasn't worked out for me when I just dipped my toe into it and I tried to like see if it's going to work, and maybe if it works at a smaller scale, then I put more effort and energy into it. It's kind of like trying to start a fire, but I want the fire before I put the wood in. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like for me, just drawing that line in the sand, that's the best thing you can do, because whenever it's time to quit, it's gonna have something that you're gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna quit.
I love it. I love it. And you just said 2 things that really resonated with me. The fact that you're willing to pay for mentorship and consultation, and the fact that you were willing to make an investment, right? I'm a firm believer that success in business is really an inside job, right?
Right.
And that investment, you know, gave you some internal motivation to follow through and make sure that you made good on it, right?
Yeah.
I've seen that so often. People just refuse to invest in themselves. They refuse to recognize that, look, you have to not necessarily burn the bridges, quote unquote, but you got to do something local.
Right.
You got to do something to really spur yourself to do the things you need to do to be successful. I love it.
Yeah. And I also don't think that you got to spend that much money, or that it was worth it. I don't even think that it was worth it, to be honest. But it was worth it in the fact that it kept me on track. No matter what, I would make the money back.
Right.
Somehow. Somehow. I got that first, for sure. I felt stupid for a long time. Like, oh my God, it's stupid. I can't believe I did this. But
I love it, man. That's the process, though. And that's why we do Next Opportunity Social, so people can really see and hear what the process really sounds like. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So where are you drawing inspiration and motivation from right now? What are some of the books you're reading? What are some of the, maybe quite frankly, other professionals who are inside or outside the industry that you kind of check for to give yourself either an opportunity to sharpen the saw, or individuals whom you just respect and you're kind of like, you know what, this is where I can draw some nuggets, this is where I can draw some strength?
Honestly, I network a lot in my industry. So I think that it's not, a lot of people may not want to network within the same industry as them, especially if they have like a similar sphere of influence, because you feel like, oh no, I'm stepping on their toes or they're stepping on my toes with clients. But I found that a lot of people that I network with, well, I'm really open. So like if it's a new agent that wants help, I'm gonna help them out, or pretty much anybody else. I try to go out my way to help them out. So I also reach out to other agents that are friends of mine. So some of them I don't really know that well, and I just reach out to them and I just ask them for help. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Because I see you doing a lot of business. What are you doing that's really helping you a lot? You know what I mean? And it's amazing because you would think that people would be real stingy with their information, but they're not. And they usually are pretty, good at giving me a tidbit or a gem or something that can kind of push me to make a change in my business or make my business better. And they do so freely because they know, like I know, that, there's nobody that's going to come in here and just steal your business just because of what you told them. You got to actually execute. So, I done told plenty of people exactly how to be successful in real estate, just like you've probably told people how to be successful in any other the business that you ran, and they just didn't take your advice because that was the execution part about it. So I think that they understand, like, hey, I'm gonna give as much advice as anybody wants, and if they're gonna execute it, they're gonna execute it with or without me. So that's pretty much what it comes down to, and they, I've gotten inspiration from people who I see just going crazy and just doing a lot of business. And you would think that they weren't so humble to take the time to speak to you or something. And they've taken the time to speak to me. So I appreciate all that. But those are the people that mainly inspire me in this business. And then just also, I'm pretty inspired from just now I'm branching out on my own, building my own business. It's really, that's enough inspiration for me all day. Just knowing that I'm building something for myself.
Excellent. With I loved hearing that. I loved hearing all of like what motivates you, what keeps you going, and all. I mean, I think it's so important for us to have things for ourselves that we can draw that strength from and keep plugging along, especially when things are difficult, especially right now. Things are still difficult. We keep saying like, the pandemic and it's not over, it's still here. So what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs that are struggling right now still during this pandemic? And, what words of wisdom can you share with those?
Honestly, the best advice that I've gotten when I was struggling was from my mentor. Because I'm like, probably the biggest motivating factor was like going back to corporate America. Like I dreaded corporate America, going back to corporate America, getting a job. I just really, 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 really didn't want to do it. So that was one of my biggest motivating factors. And that was one of my biggest fears. And my mentor alleviated that fear a lot when I'm complaining like, yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to get a job. I got to get this money. I don't want to get a job. I don't want to go back to work. And he's just like, hey, man, just don't. He's just like, don't go back to work. And it sounds real simple, but that's it. Just don't. Don't go back to work, or don't quit. Don't give up. You know what I mean? It's really, a lot of things are going to come up. There's going to be a lot of obstacles that's going to make you want to, but just don't. And then you persevere. And then on the other end, literally, you would like, I think I'm on the other end now. You know what I mean? It's like, I've seen both sides of the spectrum, and it's like, yeah, just don't quit. You're almost there. Just don't quit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's my biggest advice to anybody struggling right now. Just don't give up. keep on doing. As long as you're putting forth effort every day, one small step on your business every day, even if you're moving slowly. I think in the beginning of businesses, you don't get the results that you want from the effort that you put in. So you might overexert yourself in the beginning, like putting in tons and tons of effort and not getting any of the result. But if you just focus on consistently every day, maybe make one thing, you make one thing for your business, you make one Instagram post for your business every day, that compound effect ultimately is going to push you past that point, past your breaking point, your breakthrough point, I should say.
I love it. I love it. You know, you said something that really caught my attention. I think about a quote from a business mentor of mine some time ago. He used to say that people overestimate what they can accomplish in the short term and underestimate what can be done in the long term.
Definitely.
Right. And a lot of times it's simply the habits, right? The daily habits. And so I want to touch on that as we start wrapping up here. You know, what are some of the daily habits? Maybe 1, 2, 3, even 4 things that you do on a daily basis that makes the biggest difference in your business. Have you gotten to that point where you've identified those things? If you have, what are those things?
Honestly, the biggest thing is prospecting in my business. I think that's probably any business, just consistent daily prospecting. And prospecting can be sitting down cold calling, but it also could be reaching out to friends and family members, reaching out to people on social media, making a social media post. Any of those things are considered prospecting, and I try to carve out at least 3 hours a day just dedicated to prospecting. I don't always get it every day, but even naturally I prospect though. So just built the whole, when I see somebody, you know, I learned that starting from when I was working with you at an early age, reading how to win friends and influence people, you know, keeping a smile on your face, talking, you know, learning those daily prospecting habits, where it's just natural for me to prospect and find new clients or meet new people. That's one of the biggest things that I think that separates me from other people in business is just, you know, networking, always constantly networking. And then also for me, another big thing is some type of exercise. I have to get it done just to keep my mind mentally clear. Like I got to exercise, and exercise could be walking around my park, like walk around the park in the morning, or actually doing some actual exercise like running, or, you know, I ran a couple half marathons and stuff like that. Other than, I got to get exercise. I got to get exercise. Otherwise, I just won't be clear. I won't be ready for the day. So I learned those 2 things are big for my business, and just the exercise, just my mental and personal health. You know, I gotta do that pretty much every day. So those are the main 2 things that I do try to do every day: is prospect in some type of way, whether it's social media, or just calling a friend, a family member, keeping in contact with people, and exercise. Exercise is really big for me, man. Like when I was not doing a lot of business and I didn't know what to do with my day and I was kind of stressed out, that was what I relied on to get me out of that too, was just exercising. It just gave me something to focus on and kind of clear my mind.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. So you kind of answered the next question that we typically close with. We have 2 questions that we close with, and but I still want to ask anyway. And number 1, what do you think your superpower is, man? Or
my superpower? Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a superpower, but I do think that I have a gift, or what my gift is teaching. I do think that I'm pretty good at teaching. I can make, you know, complex topics easy for people to understand. So I think that's one of one of my first business ventures was being a tutor. I tutored accounting, and I was like one of my favorite jobs. I got paid like $8 an hour when I worked as a tutor, and that was one of my favorite jobs even to this day. And I think that's why I like real estate so much, because it allows me to teach other people and to make, you know, a real estate transaction is a pretty complicated I mean, it's straightforward, but it can be pretty complicated on all of the moving parts. So just making that process simple for my clients is like a superpower of mine because I can make complex things a little bit easier to understand.
Fantastic. And what would be, we've asked this question a couple times, but if you could point out one lesson, one thing right now that you would share, the most important thing you want to leave our audience of aspiring and established entrepreneurs, what would it be? The most important thing you pass on to them?
Besides don't quit, I'm also gonna say don't be afraid to reach out to the people that can help you, and don't be afraid to ask them for help directly. Like, hey, help me. What is it that you do? I think that that's like taboo in our culture or society for some reason. It's like, don't ask people for help. They're successful. Like, no, those are the people that you need to ask for help. And those are the people that usually don't get asked for help the most. You know what I mean? Most people aren't asking them for help. They're just assuming that they're not going to help them, or they're too busy, or that they don't have the time. If you really want to do something, find somebody that is doing it already and ask them for help, and then keep on bugging them. And then also find a way that you can be helpful to them too. You know what I mean? I drove my mentor around for, 8 weeks or something. Like, didn't ask him for gas money. But in that, I learned everything that he did. You know what I mean? So it may seem like, you're devaluing yourself on the outside, but really you're gaining something. So if you find a situation where you can gain something from somebody else, mentorship, definitely find a mentor, because they're going to accelerate the process. They're going to make it a lot easier, and it's going to be more probable that you won't give up and that you won't quit, because you're going to have that person that you can always see and be like, hey, they're doing it. I know I can do it. So definitely reach out to me too if anybody needs any guidance or mentorship. I always answer my phone. So
with that, that's what I was going to say. How can people reach out to you if A, they're looking to buy a house, but also B, if they're looking to talk with you more, learn from you more? What is the best way to get in contact with you?
If you're on social media, my Instagram handle is all_day_J. And then I'm on Facebook as Jay Smith. You can reach out on either one of those. If you don't want to reach out there, you can reach out to me directly via phone. My number is 313-595-4331. Again, that's 313-595-4331. You can call or text me pretty much anytime. I always answer my phone. It's part of my job. So
Awesome. Thank you, Javonovan. We are so honored that we had you here. If anyone's watching, if you have questions, you want to learn more, if you're looking to buy your home, sell your home,
definitely,
obviously the person who needs to help you with it, please reach out to them. As always, NextOppSocial fam, if you are not subscribed yet, please do. Please tune in with us every Wednesday, and we will see you all soon. Thanks again.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, man. This was a great interview. Great questions.
Thank you so much.
We're glad to have you.